In this video, I want to show you how to set up QuickBooks to be able to pay your vendors as 1099s. There's a couple key steps that are very important to do so. Now, I'm using QuickBooks 2015 here. The same thing would work in QuickBooks 2016 and even earlier versions. The first thing that you have to do is you have to go into your chart of accounts and set up an account as a 1099. So I'll pick on chart of accounts. Now this could be an existing account or you can make a new one. So I'll just make a new one. And it has to be an expense account. And I'll pick on continue. And let's say I'm going to call this professional consulting 1099. Yeah, you don't have to have the name 1099 in the title of the account name. I just did that, for demonstration purposes. The real key is you have to do a tax line mapping and then scroll down and find one of your 1099 accounts over here. And usually I'll use non-employee compensation, but the other ones will work as well. So I'll pick that. So you have to make an account or change one of your existing accounts in your GL to make sure it's mapped to that one of the 1099 miscellaneous categories, as you can see. That's step one, and I'll pick on Save and Close. Next, we want to set up a vendor to be a 1099 vendor. So I'll pick on the Vendors tab, and we'll just make a new vendor here. And I'll call it XYZ Company. And then obviously you can fill in the other information. But what you want to do is you come over here and pick on tax settings. And then you check the box where it says vendor eligible for 1099. And you can put in their tax ID if you know that. And I'll click on OK. But that was the important choice. You're going to set them up as a 1099 right there. And I'll click on OK. The next thing you have to do is make at least one bill for that customer. So I'll pick on, here in the Vendor Center, I'll pick on New Transactions and I'll put in a bill. And notice how that vendor came up. Otherwise, I would pick it from the list. Now, the important part on this screen is here, you're going to pick the same GL account that you set up as the 1099 in that previous step. So I'll pick on this one. That's the account that I know that I set up as a 1099. And let's say we'll type in $400 there. And we'll pick on Save and New. Or Save and Close. Alright, so we set up a GL account that's a 1099 account. We set up a vendor that's a 1099 vendor. And now we made a bill for that vendor that uses that account. In this case, there's one more step that you have to do in order for that to show up on the 1099 reports. You go into your preferences. In this case, I'll pick Edit, Preferences, and you pick on one down here that says Tax 1099. And I'm going to pick on Company Preferences. And in this case, I'll pick on Click Here. Now, when you first go in here, you might come over here and you say, Show All Accounts. And then I'm going to come over here and I will pick that account that we chose within the GL, which is right here. And you're going to click on this pull down and we'll make it say, usually to box 7, non-employee compensation. So on this screen, you have to map them as well. All right, so you want to obviously pick that account that you set up, and in this case, we're going to map it to box 7, or whichever one would be appropriate. So I'll pick on Save and Close. Good. Now let's make another bill for that client, the vendor I mean. So I'll pick on Enter a Bill. We'll use the XYZ client, and make sure we pick on that same. Now notice how the account filled in, because that's what we used the last time. And we'll use $600 there. And we'll Save and Close. Now we're going to pay those bills. It's really not going to make it on the GL account the 1099 report until I actually pay the bill. So in this case, I'll pick on New Transactions, Paid Bills, and we're going to check both of those, or as many as you wanted to, right? And I'll pick on Pay Selected Bills. Good. We can print the checks, of course. Let's now see if it shows up on the 1099 report. So I'll pick on the Reports tab, and I'll pick on the vendors list, and we'll pick on 1099 Summary. Should be a built-in report that comes with QuickBooks. Now in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use this current year. Obviously those transactions are in this year. And now you can see how that transaction came up as a 1099 on the report. So, and then we can actually generate the 1099s from QuickBooks as well. But the really important things were what I just showed you. So I'm going to go ahead and say no here. All right, so a couple key steps. You go into your chart of accounts, and you can use an existing report, an existing account, or you can add a new one. But when we go into that GL, you have to make sure that the tax mapping is to one of the 1099 categories. Then we went into the vendors, and you make a vendor into a 1099 vendor by going into the tax settings for that vendor and make sure you check that box. And then if you had the tax ID there, of course you would do that, and you would get the tax ID when they submitted a W-9. So I'll click on OK. Then you have to make some bills that go with that vendor with that account. All right, so there's the vendor. That's fine. And I'll pick the account. It already has that from before. Then you only have to do this one time. You have to map it within the preferences. So I'll pick on Edit Preferences, and then pick on Tax 1099, and then make Company Preferences. Make sure that's picked to say yes, and make sure you click here to actually map the accounts, and you can see it's already mapped. So you only have to do that one once. And really you only have to set up the GL account once, and then each vendor has to be set up appropriately. Now when I pay that bill, now those transactions should show up on the 1099 reports. And of course, you could also make the 1099s from here as well. But I'll pick on Reports, and then Vendors, and then 1099 Summary. And we'll make it to this current year. And you can see how the transactions are showing up. If I move my mouse and clicked on the magnifying glass right there, then I would see the drill down. I double click there, and then I can see the 3 transactions that I used. So that is how you set up your 1099 vendors with QuickBooks.